part of that party, you begin to blame the party as opposed to the person. I just want people to know the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. And here's the way, the hierarchy way. And I would challenge any QC or what you call constitutionalist person to tell me the people in the country always have more power than the parliament. Parliament always have more power than the cabinet, and cabinet always have more power than the prime minister. And so the lie that we often tell ourselves that the prime minister have ultimate power in spite of number 73 in the Constitution, the prime minister does not. He has the power to appoint and disappoint, because if 50 plus 1, not 51%, 50 plus 1 person, 50% plus 1 person in cabinet disagrees with the prime minister, he can do nothing but disappoint them, and they go back to parliament. And if parliament is 50% plus 1 disappoints cabinet, they can do nothing. And if 50% plus 1 disappoint in the election, the party isn't there.
Hold on.
It always remains with the people.
We got a bunch of callers. I need you to be a little more precise, a little bit more concise with your responses, because we got a lot of callers, and I don't want to lose them. But I want to read a text real quick. It says, "Great show, Michelle. No, C. Alan Johnson. You don't get it. We are stuck. We are being held hostage by a group of people that is using PLP and F&M." Texter, I don't agree with that. I think you're stuck because you don't have the courage to get unstuck. That's what I believe is going on here.
Walk out of the cave.
And exactly. It goes back to the cave. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to the Paradigm Shift.
How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Awesome. Michelle, and good day to your guest.
Good day, man.
Recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family, Michelle, and my good guest, is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in some of this bad treatment. We can call it barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind. And I can go on. All I'm just trying to simply say in those short little words, manners and respect. And we need to stop being jealous for one another's gift and talent that the Creator have given to all who seek Him first. You all have a good day.
All right. Thanks so much for calling. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to the Paradigm Shift. Hello, caller. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi. Let's hear you.
Okay. Godly day to you on CL and, of course, the young lady, Michelle.
Same to you.
Good.
Michelle, the guy said that we haven't got it. We got it. The thing is, when government goes into the House of Assembly, right, everything they do it in the name of the Queen, who is the head of the state. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that. Some of us know that. Some of us don't know that. You see? And that's the problem. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for calling.
But we have the power to remove the Queen.
That's
The Queen
that's true.
I'm simply saying is that if in the Constitution it addresses the Queen, the majority of the people simply have to make a decision that they no longer want it, and she, as part of our governance, will cease to exist. It's not the Queen, it's us.
Agreed. I have a text that says, "Good day, Michelle. The colonizers have put sugar in the cave for our politicians, so our leaders' philosophy and rhetoric is of a very low substance." Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to the Paradigm Shift. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Hi, you're on the air.
Listen, I've been following the conversation, and right now I'll use the example of Grand Bahama. The sovereignty of the Bahamas is under attack, and I have to be direct. Right now, IRCA does not have jurisdiction over Grand Bahama because of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. So you have to be in a cave if you allow foreigners to come, have jurisdiction, a situation, trying to be sensitive with the language, a situation where we understand that the cost of power right now is 3 times what it is on New Providence. But IRCA is in court and cannot protect the rights of the people. Let me not say any more than that.
No, don't hang up. Let me tell you something, sir.
Go ahead. Yeah.
First of all, the Hawksbill Creek Agreement has been abrogated, okay? Meaning that it technically no longer exists because those individuals have yet to meet their part of an agreement. Both sides in the agreement have to meet. Now, when you talk about IRCA and the law, IRCA, the law has been passed, and there's no law superior to another law in the Bahamas except it's the Constitution. So if your leadership says, if IRCA sues, and they say that they're not subject to a new law, change the law to make them subject. They did it for dogs in 10 minutes. They did it for turtles. They did it for shark. They could do it for the people. If you see the law that affects Grand Bahama isn't changed, it's because they want you to believe it cannot be changed.
See, Alan, final statement. This must be changed. It's too much hardship in Grand Bahama, and I'm a resident of New Providence.
I live on Grand Bahama, and I've been, long before these problems surfaced,
Yeah.
I've been saying, I've been telling people that it will be coming. And so I'm simply saying that we need to stop eloquently describing the problem now, and we need to define exactly what the solution is. And so when you talk about the power in Grand Bahama, fix it, because the power company is not supposed to operate for profit. But for 20-something years, we've allowed them to. You mentioned the Hawke's Creek Agreement. The Hawke's Creek Agreement defines that. So then why do you allow them to operate and complain about them operating? Just simply demand that they follow the law. The Hawke's Creek Agreement, for people who don't understand, is not just an agreement. It is actually statute law. We call it the Hawke's Creek Agreement because that's where the agreement was achieved and signed. But it's law. Have them follow the law, as opposed to keep talking about the Hawke's Creek Agreement as if there's some abstract document that you can't do. Follow the law. Chapter 264, 265 within the statute law.
Okay, we have to take a break, guys. We have to take a break. We're running out of time, and we got to get our sponsors' ads in here.
Okay.
So we're going to take this break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue with the conversation. Stay with us. You're in the Paradigm Shift.
96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Welcome back to the Paradigm Shift on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, talking to C. Alan Johnson today about Plato's allegory of the cave. And C. Alan, I want to ask you a question. What can Plato's allegory of the cave tell us about knowledge translation?
What it simply says is that we need to go outside of our environment to understand the fullness of our existence. And use an example is that here in the Bahamas, as far as information is concerned, we have a Google-fueled, Wikipedia-based, YouTube-induced intellectualism. Let me repeat that. Google-fueled, Wikipedia-based, YouTube-induced pseudo-intellectualism. And so what it simply says that what we have to do is begin to realize that when we do an application, that if it does not work the first time and the second time and the third time, there's a high possibility that it will not work the fourth time. And there's more than one solution to many of the problems. In fact, as a child, my mother and father said to, not just to me, but myself and my brothers and sisters and those within the community, a problem is nothing more than an unapplied solution. A problem is nothing more than an unapplied solution. And so what we have to do is begin to look for solution-based environment, which it says, look for solution-based environment. Know that the problem you're looking at may nothing be but shadows. To remove yourself into the light, to be able to see the problem better, and then come back and solve it.
Let me ask you something. Is it all about connections? And let me explain what I mean by that. There is a myth out there that new ideas can just be stored like files in a filing cabinet. Truth be told, new ideas have to connect with what's already there, like plans or a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Is it really all about connections?
It's all about maintenance, because essentially, again, it goes back to if you choose leadership from within the cave, and if they actually believe, and this is where you see them keep going back to the same people, for those individuals who have never left the cave, they act, and the cave is a method of thinking, not the fact that you have not left the Bahamas, but you've never left your idea of the way you think. And so you have some people who they believe are the ones who are all-knowing. And we see this, and when we say, why? A foreigner, because they came from outside of the cave, no matter even if they came from another cave, because they're new to our cave, knows the answers. When we ourselves have individuals who have went out and have come back with the answer, we'll say, we'll pay a foreigner before we take free advice from a Bahamian. And so what it requires us to simply do when you say the connections is that I would like to say that it's deliberate what is happening, because it goes back again to there's always some puppeteers within the cave that control the environment. And for those who have never left the cave, accept the manipulation and the environment that is given to them as being the answer, even if it's nothing more than a variation of something they previously tried. So we are captives. But the problem is that I think our chains, remember you said that the individuals are chained and faced directly to the wall? The chains have been broken for us in the Bahamas. And COVID is one of those things, and Dorian did too. We can see the light outside of the cave. And many of us who have approached the cave light, remember we said that there's a certain amount of pain from coming from the dark into the light? We don't want the discomfort of the pain. And so what we do is we come back into the reality of the cave as opposed to facing the pain of the light of going out of the cave. And for those of us who have left the cave, some of us must accept the pain of going back into the cave to enlighten those whose chain has been loose, to guide them and get them to leave out of the cave from being manipulated by the puppeteers that wants control of the cave and the exploitation of the workforce, the value of the people in the cave.
I have a text that says it's a catch-22 because the system is so corrupt that the quality people needed to stand up and make changes to the system are often turned off by manner in which politics is handled in this country. What do you say to that, C. Allen?
Because I don't think the corruption is an induced environment, and part of that is because it's part of the cave conditioning where we have identity politics. Most people can't tell you why they support the PLP and the FNM. If you even ask some hardcore FNM and even leadership of the FNM and PLP what is the philosophy, they don't know. That's called identity politics. That's called gang mentality. And you can look at the gang mentality. There's a guy who sat last night in his house enjoying the luxury of his $1 million house, and some young people in the ghetto went and robbed a drug deal last night. And so they just got $1 million worth of drugs. And so what do? Instead of them saying, well, I have the drugs, it's mine, they go and wake up the leader of the the gang and say, look, boss, look what we did last night. We got this man, and they give it to him and go back to their environment while he gets to enjoy the benefits. And that's part of group thinking. That's part of gang mentality. And if you think about it, that's what we have become, a gang, a group think, a identity politics. And so until we overcome the identity politics, we will continue to get the corruption, the ineptitude, the incompetence, the incapability, and everything else that we have. We, the people, nobody's coming to save us. We have the ability to fix this, and we can fix it today. And we keep looking for somebody else to fix it. See, Alan Johnson, why don't you go to Parliament and fix it? I go, well, guess what? If I go to Parliament and you send 38 corrupt people with me and majority rules, guess who rules? The corrupt people. So you can't send me to Parliament and not send me with the majority of people who think like me. You can't send me as an individual and then say, these are the rules you as an individual have to abide by. You must abide by the majority rule, and the majority in there is corrupt, inept, incompetent, and incapable.
Bottom line is you need to have the courage to be the change you want to see.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to the Paradigm Shift. I need you to turn your radio down, please, and go ahead and speak. We're listening.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi, I'd like to make a comment.
You're on the air, sir.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, in an age of information, ignorance is only a bed of comfort for those who are inspired by it. The problem isn't the government. The problem is the people who don't engage themselves enough in the evolution of their own country. Most are pacified by short-term benefits, and they cling to the parties that provide the same. The problem is that we always look to governments to be the solution to the problems that we have, right? Because we just don't want to be engaged enough because we are quite frankly lazy and don't want to participate in the evolution of the things that we can change. We are too reliant on government. In fact, we are the only consistent thing that has been in the process of governance in the country. By that I mean the people. We have changed governments 5 years, every 5 years, back and forth, or whatever the case may be, right? And we expect something different to happen. The only thing that has been consistent is the pool of which we have been electing from. And that pool is consisting of the people that exist. Until we all elevate our mindset, elevate our thought processes, and also think along the lines of collective Bahamianization, collective Bahamian development, collective change, we will be in the same state. I don't care which government come into place, because the people themselves aren't engaged enough to demand the change that they desire or to be a part of the change that they desire. Governments can't do it alone. The people have to be a part of that process, and we cannot be lazy and allow others to do it for us. That's the only way it's going to happen. And this fallacy that we can change a government and expect the change to happen is foolishness, and we got to get out of that mindset. And when you look at it, in a lot of the processes in our system, people benefit from government. And that is one of the reasons why governments fail as well. Because if my party is in and I am not benefiting from this, I'm not going to perform at my optimum. But if my party in and I'm benefiting from my party, I'm going to perform. That is also what's stifling this country from developing and growing on the levels that it needs to grow. And that needs to change. We got to think different. We got to be different, and we got to elevate the game.
All right, good
No,
stuff.
I would agree with him, but I would say to him that the change that you want is actually here, and the toxic, full ranting and posturing is going to be exposed for the fact that government is no longer in a position to sustain the level of self-induced corrupt belief of the political fanatics and supporters. And so as we begin to face the reality that 70% of our economy has disappeared, I mean that 70% of the revenue where the government spared you from doesn't exist, we were going to now have to come together and work as a collective to change the Bahamas, or we all will perish.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for calling. Okay, let me try to get one or two texts in here. This one says, "Good morning, Miss Malcolm. Your topics are getting better and better. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much." Let's see. Another one is questioning UC Allen. They say they have a problem because where did it go? Every time it says, I like C. Allen, but the problem I have with him is he said once he removes a government, he goes into opposition mode. Why don't you work with the new government? Real quick, C. Allen, because we only got 2 minutes left.
I can't work with. I can't go into a strongman house and work. Why don't you ask the government? See, you should ask the government. You should find every minister and ask them in the public domain, why won't they work with me?
All right. Listen, you got 1 minute to give us your final thoughts on this subject.
Vehemence, let's abandon the unappealing and toxic-filled ranting, posturing of empty intellectual seriousness that allow the political parties to pander to an uneducated and manipulable electorate. And let's choose a better Bahamas. If we come together, organize, and decide what we want rather than them telling us, we can create a better Bahamas today, not tomorrow.
Good stuff, C. Allen. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Here are my final thoughts on this. All humans are prisoners of conventions, intellectual and societal norms. Whether we like it or not, that's the truth. Those who feel that there is or can be more to this life than just the shadows or echoes are the ones who ask questions about the validity of their cave-bound life. And among the answer seekers, those who are bold enough to escape into the outside world despite being dazzled by the sights and the sounds are the free thinkers and intellectually liberated thinkers. Plato's allegory of the cave is an excellent analysis of why the mundane majority in a society stay bound to their roots and what happens when a precious few feel dissatisfied by their conventional social lives and venture out of their familiar environment into an unknown to seek answers. My encouragement to you today, all of you under the sound of my voice, it is time to find the sun. That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks, C. Allen. News is next, followed by The Revolution with Juan McCartney. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Have a good afternoon.